things about the traffic in Los Angeles. It says something that local officials warned motorists about a temporary roadwork closure on the 405 last year by calling it Carmageddon. Angelenos took the hint, and this weekend they're expected to steer clear of the latest 405 closure, named, of course, Carmageddon 2. That's how it is in L.A., a snarl of overstuffed freeways and commuters who keep their cool, except when they don't. KPCC's Stephen Cuevas has this profile of a punk rocker whose music expresses the insanity of L.A. traffic while extolling the virtues of public transit.
Couple of things you need to know about Eddie Solis. He lives in L.A., loves the band Kiss, and does not own a car.
Being someone who's from L.A., born and raised, and, having a few cars in my past, I saw the city much differently, through a different perspective, through the eyes of a bus rider.
Want to just go all the way to the back? Sure.
Line 18, Wilshire, Western Station.
Just steps from the front door of his home. Across the street from a tortilla factory in LA's Boyle Heights neighborhood, Solis catches a bus that connects him with the city's subway and the commuter train he catches to his day job at an indie record label in Hollywood.
It just opened me up to little neighborhoods, galleries, clubs, bars, just everything. Just seeing what's out there, little pockets of the city.
Solis's journeys aboard LA buses and subway cars informs a lot of the material on The New Los Angeles Part 1, Through the Eyes of a Bus Rider, the latest release by the singer-guitarist band It's Casual. In Solis's vision of a new Los Angeles, people abandon their cars, climb aboard public transit, and rediscover their communities. One song extols the virtues of the LA County Metropolitan Transit Agency's Easy Pass and the urban underbelly it introduces to the rider.
And that's a nod and homage to, the people who know what you can even go cheaper and really beat the system and really steer away from spending money on gas and oil profits and all that. $50 is all it takes for me to get to work. $50 is all it takes for me to witness racial tension, for me to witness illegal aliens. It's not to paint a negative picture. It's just my perspective of what is seen. Easy pass.
I got a funny backstory.
Off the bus and back on the street, we make our way past a jazz saxophonist playing for pocket change and down a long escalator to catch a train. So, where are we now?
We're at the Red Line station, the Pershing Square station in downtown LA.
And what's our destination?
We're going to go downstairs another tier, and in about 5 minutes we're going to get on the Red Line going northbound.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's go. The Metro Red Line snakes from North Hollywood to downtown Los Angeles. It's the train that inspired It's Casual's signature tune and spawned a viral internet video. It was partly filmed late at night on a moving train as it hurtles from station to station. Solis thrashes away on his guitar and barks the lyrics, which celebrate the Red Line and call out the congested freeways that coil around Los Angeles.
Este es un tren del Metro Red Line a North Hollywood.
The 210, the 605, the freeways are not so nice. The I-5, the 210, the freeways are not so nice.
The thread that comes out of the record that ties everyone together is just be alive. Don't be a victim of having a car.
An MTA spokesman said he couldn't comment on Eddie Solis's furious pro-Metro message, but the Red Line video was a hit at the offices of Move LA.
Eddie's done a good job. Thank you, Eddie.
It's the public transportation advocacy group headed by former Santa Monica Mayor Denny Zane. He liked the juxtaposition of Solis blissfully riding LA public transit in one scene with scenes of the band raging against those notorious freeway jams.
Eddie is all frantic when he talks about highways and so mellow when he's grooving on a skateboard and on the bus and on the Red Line. There's a metaphor for the transformation, from the, oh my God, I just got to get out of the traffic to, hey, this is cool. I can mellow out.
Or you can blast the tune like Too Many People as you claw your way across Los Angeles by car, bus, or skateboard.
Los Angeles, there's too many people. I want them to go away, even though it makes me afraid.
Too Many People could also be a motto for It's Casual. Over the years, the band whittled itself down to a power duo of Solis and a rotating cast of drummers. So you may think the burly, bearded punk rocker just can't get along with freeways, with people, or his native L.A. Not true.
I love it. I love everything about it. I've traveled throughout the U.S. many times, and I could never look forward enough to coming back. The weather, the different cultures, the landscape. I was just like, you know what? Now I know everyone moves to L.A.
Solis will bring the love and the volume during a Red Line mini tour next month. It's Casual will play a different venue within walking distance of several Red Line metro stops from Union Station to West Hollywood. For the California Report, I'm Stephen Cuevas.
That's the California Report, a production of KQED Public Radio in San Francisco. Our director this week is Nina Thorson. Seal Muller is our technical producer. We had additional engineering from Danny Bringer and Howard Gelman. Thanks to Hank Hadley at KCBX. Our online team includes Lisa Pickoff-White, David Marks, and Don Clyde. Our interns are Catherine Borgeson and Rachel Johnson. Tyke Hendricks is our elections editor with production help from Tina Lauerberg. We had editing support from Paul Rogers. Victoria Malione is our associate senior producer. Ingrid Becker is our senior producer. The news director is Bruce Kuhn. I'm Rachel Myro. Thanks for listening and have a great weekend. This is the California Report.
Funds for the California Report are provided by the James Irvine Foundation, expanding opportunity for the people of California and supporting the California Report since its premiere in 1995. And the California Endowment. Health happens in schools at calendow.org. And Chevron, investing in renewables, strengthening communities, and creating jobs. More information at chevron.com.
The 210, the 605, the freeways are not so nice. The I-5, the 210, the freeways are not so nice. The 101, the 405, the freeways are not so nice. The I-5, the I-10, the freeways are not so nice. The 210, the 605, the freeways are not so nice. I-5, the I-10, the freeways are not so nice. The red line, 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 the 210, the 605, the freeways are not so nice. The I-5, the I-10, the freeways are not so nice. The 101, the 405, the freeways are not so nice. The 605, the 101, the 101, the 101, the I-10, the 210, the 605, the 101, the 405, the I-10, the freeways are not so nice. The red line, 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 the red line.
Welcome to Los Angeles Nista, episode 117. I am the show creator, producer, and host, Edward Solis. Tonight is a Silver Lake episode, and our in-studio guest is Caroline Ryder. How are you, Caroline?
What's up, Edward?
A lot. 117th episode here. We're all been working hard, really excited to dig into it. you have a lot of experience in your professional life, being a journalist, and involved in a lot of books as well. Before we get into your professional world, I want to speak about your backstory. You came to LA in 2004 from London.
That's right. Yeah. Basically, I met a gentleman, an American gentleman in London, and we became friends. And he invited me to do a road trip across America. So we started on the East Coast and made our way through the entire United States pretty much. I loved it. Fell in love with New Orleans and kind of wanted to stay there. And then he said, no, we need to get back to LA. That's where he had been living. And I got to LA, and then I really fell in love with LA. And I just knew I had to stay. I didn't have a visa. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know a soul. And all I had was my writing experience in London and some entertainment experience. I'd worked at MTV and some record labels, and I've been working at local newspapers, learning how to write, and then bigger newspapers. And I just really was embraced by LA, and everything fell into place. I had some really whacked out experiences, weird Craigslist jobs, and then everything sort of started changing when I started working with Shepard Fairey, who had just started his magazine, Swindle.
Wow.
And that brought about a lot of opportunities and enabled me to connect with this incredible creative community in LA. At the same time, I was starting to write for the LA Weekly.
Right.
So those two things really opened up the city to me and made me feel like I was a part of it.
Very well done. When you were at MTV, that was back in London?
Yeah.
What did you do there?
I was a production management intern, and I was there for 6 months. They were actually paid internships, if I recall. I think I got paid £150 a week. And I really thought I could live off that and pay rent. And it didn't work out. Yeah, it didn't work out that way. But I had some really fun experiences with some great bands that were coming in. I remember Chris Cornell came in one time, and I was just dying. And the Charlatans came in, all these cool, like, it was like 2000, 2001. And I was just completely starstruck most of the time.
Wow. So I have this theory that people that are not from Los Angeles, such as yourself, when you come here, the geography and the weather doesn't let you down, but the people do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because, like I said, yeah, the geography, it's a beautiful
place.
I think a lot of people don't realize how beautiful it is until they start living here, with Griffith Park and then the ocean
all the Pacific Ocean up
the
and down
mountains
the
and
coast.
the deserts really not too far away. But it can take time to find your sort of friends in LA because people are here generally for a reason, and they're driven and focused in their ambition, and also just the geography of the lay of the land can make it hard to just have those random interactions that make life in other cities a little more, at least filled with humanity, I suppose. And that's why I've made I posted on my Facebook page today that I felt lonely.
Right. And I was like, okay, well, I'm sure there's some insight we could get. We'll get to that. I mean, that's a true feeling, and you expressed your feeling.
Yeah, I was kind of embarrassed because I think because I am British and have the stiff upper lip thing, I don't necessarily like to share that kind of emotion publicly. Mm-hmm. And, I just don't really believe in TMI on Facebook.
Right.
But I definitely was having a tough time of it. And I thought, well, I mean, I just wanted to express it. And it was amazing how many people responded. I think I have like 90 comments and counting from people either being supportive or sort of expressing a similar sentiment about being here in LA and feeling lonely.
I believe that there's a true aura that facilitates a certain type of loneliness that travels through the city. And people from all walks of life experience it because it's such a big city. A lot of people are here to focus on their career and are driven and are, see a finish line and they're trying to get to it. And you connect with all these people in these professional circles or artistic circles or any kind of circle. And before you know it, your reach is so far. And it's so easy to feel lonely. So it's kind of an emotional thing. It could be very emotional because wow, why do I feel lonely? I know all these people.
It's because I think it's a process of constant sort of accrual. You're constantly accumulating friends and experiences and contacts and connections and everyone is interesting and fascinating. And when you're in a city where everyone generally has something really interesting going on, you can kind of get lost in that, and everything becomes about what's next. And you have to work really hard to maintain friendships. That's what I found. You can't be lazy, and that's, I think, I'm trying to own my own loneliness or my experience of it in the last few days at least, because it's not a constant feeling, but it's there. I'm trying to own it because maybe I'm not doing enough work, and I'm not, I'm caught up in that cycle of meeting new people and working and hustling, and then you come home and you're like, what did I really do today that feels real? And I think that's the thing with LA, what is real and what isn't, and that's what makes it magical. You can get caught up in what isn't real.
Right. With that and the beautiful landscape, the geography, it's a pretty magical place.
It's really magical. I would never entirely diss LA at all, but you've got to be a survivor.
Right. Now, let's talk about the first writing job you had in LA. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Well, technically the first writing job I had was it was a Craigslist gig that enabled me to get a visa.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really cool. And it was with this wonderful gentleman called Jeff Hall, who I'm still friends with, and was a great supporter and a father figure. And he had a bunch of magazines on the West Side, in Bel Air and Brentwood and Santa Monica. He was a
publisher?
He was a publisher.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he really liked my English accent. And he pretty much hired me on the basis of my accent. I was hopelessly underexperienced, underqualified for the job, which was, he made me the editor of 5 magazines. I was 26 or 27, and I just started making it up as I went along, which I found to this day tends to work out.
You learn as you go.
You just do. You just dive in at the deep end.
That's what everyone does.
So I was having a great time on the west side of LA, meeting all these kind of west sidey people like Phyllis Diller.
Phyllis Diller?
Yeah, I went to her house and she played her piano to me. She gave me some underwear. She was really cool.
She gave you underwear? Her underwear?
Yeah, she did. I still have it. And then I met the mayor of LA, Richard Reardon, and he also played the piano for me and was a real character. And Carl Malden, who was the Oscar-winning actor from On the Waterfront, and these real legends and titans who had been working in Hollywood for a long time, but still had this strong sense of community.
The last of the Mohicans.
The last of the West Side Mohicans.
Yeah, the Bel Airs, the Beverly Hills. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was a trip becoming immersed in that community. But because I came from this sort of, I always had an interest in cutting edge underground arts, culture, film, music.
Unconventional work, right? More unconventional.
Unconventional work. I mean, yeah, I just found myself wanting to become more involved with that world. Before I sort of settled into my old age in the West Side, So I had a friend who was working with Shepard Fairey, and Shepard was DJing at the Avalon in Hollywood, and his DJ name was DJ Diabetic. And my friend said, I'll introduce you to Shepard, and he had this magazine, Swindle, and I went up to Shepard and told him that I wanted to write for his magazine, and he sort of looked me in the eyes and said, "Can you write?" And I said, "Yes, I can." And it really went from there. My first piece for Swindle was a big long form piece, a long feature about terrorist murals in Northern Ireland, in Belfast. Wow. And I really just dove straight in and got on the phone with some terrorists and made this piece and got some really, really cool photography. And it ended up being the cover of the cover story for the next issue of Swindle. So that was really my first, the first piece that I felt connected to and proud of. And it all sort of snowballed from there.
Now, was Swindle monthly, quarterly? What was the deal with it?
Swindle started out monthly, I believe. Oh, no, it was quarterly. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
They are collector's items now. They were beautifully designed. It was before Shepard had become involved with the Obama campaign. It was 2005 or 2004 or 5 when it started. And he just brought together a lot of really wonderful artists, graphic designers, and writers, and just had everyone just give it their best shot. And there was a really high production value. There were beautiful screen prints that came out.
Nice stock paper.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can get your hands on some copies of Swindle, then you should, because unfortunately it stopped being published when everything sort of went down the tubes when the recession hit.
The economy.
The economy
made me do it. So that was pretty much a year where you planted your feet in Los Angeles with professional writing.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bel Air guy. Now, what was his umbrella called?
It was called the Brentwood Media Group, or West Side Today. I mean, it's just surreal looking back on it, and I love it. And one day I will write about that period of my life, because I was fresh off the boat. I did not have a clue what was going on.
FOB, dude. FOB.
Seriously.
But so there was five publications that catered to different geographies.
It was the Santa Monica Sun, the Bel Air View, the Brentwood News, the Beverly Hills 90210, and something else. And I remember it was hilarious because, I was living in a pretty shitty apartment in Hollywood, which I loved because it was my first place by myself.
And you liked it.
I loved it. And so it would have these sort of really, really fancy PR companies wanting to deliver, product and champagne or whatever the hell.
For the story you did, right?
For the story, or for, just to so I could test their, $1,000 face cream or whatever. And they'd usually have it sort of biked over or messengered over in a car, and I remember the messengers would always look totally confused when they pulled up to this sort of very modest apartment building in the middle of Hollywood, and I came down like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah. You're like, huh? Well, so bougie. I mean, these people are delivering the $1,000 face cream so you could talk about it.
Oh, hell yeah!
In those magazines.
Yeah, they were, and I always did a good job. I didn't mind writing for a bougie readership. That's totally fine, and that's part of LA. It's people here have taste for the finer things in life, and I do too.
Sure, but quality of life, nothing wrong with it.
For sure, but like I say, I just had this hunger and this passion for something else, and I was very lucky to have met Shepard and the whole crew, the people in Swindle, and Roger Gassman was the editor, and he is, to this day, someone who I admire and respect. And but really, I'd say my writing chops, and I've started to feel part of the LA writing community with my relationship with the LA Weekly.
Sure.
Which started, my first story with them was in 2005 when they sent me to a historical reenactment in Long Beach where people sort of get dressed up in medieval costumes and do their thing. And I happened to stumble upon the guy who used to play bass in Wasp, and he was wearing this he was a winged hussar. And winged hussars were these sort of warriors that would go out with giant angel wings to scare off the enemy. And it was one of the trippiest things ever. I was like, so you were in Wasp and now you're a winged hussar. Let's talk. So that was my first article for the LA Weekly.
Yeah.
And
that's great.
Yeah. And Joe Donnelly was the editor there, the deputy editor at the time. And I feel like I came in right when the LA Weekly was still able to devote a lot of real estate to longer form stories, and there was more of a culture, as was the case with all journalism. There was more of a culture of writing.
Pages.
There were more pages. People were reading. It was before the internet and blogging started, and I was one of the first bloggers for the LA Weekly with their fashion blog, The Style Council.
Right.
Which was fun too.
And you also you did stuff for New York Magazine.
Yeah, later in my my career, how did that happen? They just started writing me and inviting me to go to the fanciest parties in LA, and I said, okay, I'll go. You know, like, oh, do you want to go to Harvey Weinstein's Oscars party?
Wow.
Okay. You know, so I would do stuff like that, and you know, I don't know if I'm the best person in the world to do that kind of stuff, just because I'm actually kind of shy and really bad at small talk. And I would just sort of wander around and be like, where's the champagne? And the last time I went to the HBO Emmy party, I think it was, and I brought a friend with me who knows everything about sort of celebrities and TV and entertainment, and she really helped me out. And so she's my partner in crime for all those kinds of things now. Yeah,
that's cool. It's a duality. You got to have, that's reinforcement.
I'm a writer. I'm in my head, and I need someone who sort of keeps up with all the gossip to just inform me.
So some of the stories that stuck out was, the work you did, the interview you did with Tenacious D.
That was fun.
That seemed like it would have been a lot of fun. Was that like a pretty memorable experience in your journalism life?
There's so many memorable experiences, but what I loved about that one was that they really just are Tenacious D. There's no, Jack Black really is Jack Black, and my mind's blanking. What's the other guy called? We can do this.
Trevor.
Let's call him Trevor.
Is it
Kyle
Trevor?
Gass.
Kyle,
yeah, that's it.
Why
Thank
did I get
you.
Trevor. Well, I don't follow Tenacious D much, but
This was a couple years ago, and they were just brilliant and hilarious. And I met them at their rehearsal studio, and we were riffing off of, you name it. We were talking about Jack Black's sort of closeted bisexuality. We were talking about Sabbath and the death of rock and how they're trying to revive it, and how they had a huge penis on their stage for the tour that they were about to be doing. I don't know if you saw it. It was just like a huge cock and balls that sort of rises up. It was Rise of the Phoenix or something that sounds like the
Let's
penis.
back up really quick. I had a question. So this the Jack Black bisexuality, I had no idea that even existed.
I can't.
Was it a rumor or was it?
I think it was a rumor that we created within that interview. Those are the most magical ones, when you're just sort of...
Oh, when you create a rumor.
And someone is totally game for it. If we pull it up online, maybe we can refer to it, and I can pull out the conversation as it went. But it was, let me just say, it was one of the most entertaining experiences I've ever had as a journalist, for sure. I highly recommend it to all journalists
to
hang
talk
out
to Tenacious D.
Yeah.
That's great. Now, how was the Snoop Dogg experience? That seemed like it was memorable and has a lot of finesse.
Oh my God, yeah. It was really funny. I felt like I manifested that because I've always loved Snoop, and and then I heard that he was playing Coachella, and I was like, God, I got to meet Snoop. I'm going to make this happen. And I really just wanted to manifest some kind of audience with Snoop. And I ended up at a party during Coachella week in Palm Springs. It was Jeremy Scott's party, and I just missed Snoop. And I was like, damn, I know, I'm so close. And then I got a call from a British magazine called Dazed and Confused saying, we're going to put Snoop on our cover. We want you to do the interview. And I was like, fuck yeah. I don't think I've ever smoked a blunt in an interview before. And I did with Snoop because one has to.
I mean, if he offers, you going to say no?
No, you don't say no. But I knew I'm a lightweight, and I knew that I would be compromising my ability to maintain a sane
coherent
thread through the interview if I were to partake of, the green pleasures that were being offered to me. But like you say, you don't say no. When Snoop is rolling up a fresh one for you, you go, cool. So that was the highest I've ever been in any interview. And I got to tell you, it went amazing. I think if I hadn't have been high, then it wouldn't have worked as well, because we just were vibing on this weird trippy level for me, at least. And I think the interview turned out pretty good.
So you were really happy with the final product?
I was stoked. And I did have to sit in my car for an hour afterwards because I was too stoned to drive. And bear in mind, I maybe had like 3 tokes on this blunt, and Snoop was smoking throughout the entire afternoon. It was like, it was just like a fog machine in his trailer. I couldn't even believe it.
Literally like a fog machine.
Yeah, he really takes his Rastafarianism very seriously. He smokes the sacred herb on the regular. And I couldn't keep up.
He's got endurance. That's what it is,
he
right?
said he said in the interview that the one man who was outsmoked the Snoop, Willie Nelson.
Wow.
They had a smoke off. And
did
they did. Apparently, Willie just busted out all his like weird smoke and paraphernalia, all kinds of like vaporizers and pipes and whatever and whatnot. And Snoop said that after,
he smoked Snoop under the table.
Yeah, he had to wave the white flag. He was like, sorry, Willie, you win. I'll take the silver.
But that's how gangster Willie is.
Willie is gangster. Yeah.
He really is.
Yeah, dude. Anyone can outsmoke Rastafari, Snoop Lion.
Yeah. And it's like 25,
gangster.
30 years older than him?
Yeah, no.
30 years older than him.
Yeah, hats off to Willie Nelson.
So let's talk about some of the books you've been involved in and the backstory. Kicking Up Dirt.
Kicking Up Dirt was my first book collaboration. I'd written an article, a very small article for Paper magazine, about a promising young motocross racer called Ashley Filek. What's really special about her is that she is deaf and mute, and she's 5'1", and she is a badass on a motorcycle. She just kicks so much ass. She is the X Games gold medalist, and she's, the top racer in America. And when I heard about her story, I was just really inspired. And I, at the same time, had been introduced to a literary agent in New York, William Morris. And he said, do you have any ideas for anything that you think would make a good book? And I said, well, this deaf girl who rides motorcycles and is a badass. And he said, cool, write a proposal. So I wrote a proposal, and 2 weeks later it sold to a major publisher, to HarperCollins. And I was like,
wow,
oh shit, now I have to write it. Now, girl be living in Florida, deaf and mute on a motorcycle. I'm in LA, know nothing about motorcycles.
Right.
Except that I admire her deeply. So it was an extremely challenging job. And it was only with the help of her mother and father that I was able to get enough information to put together in a book, because Ashley, she's all about riding the motorcycles, and we weren't able to communicate because she doesn't speak.
Right.
But we put this book together, and it was it did good. And about 2 or 3 months ago, I got a call from the agent again saying that they're turning the book into a movie. Sony Pictures is turning it into a film, which is really big news and really exciting. It's the same it's the same team that made Soul Surfer, the movie about the surfer girl who had her arm bitten off by a shark.
Right.
So that's
Wow.
super exciting. So look out for that on the big screen.
That's great news.
Coming up soon. Yeah.
So has that gone into production yet?
I believe they're still working on the script, and they'll start principal photography soon. And we don't know who's going to play Ashley yet, but there's a few rumors floating around. We'll see.
Very well done. Dirty Rocker Boys.
Okay, so Dirty Rocker Boys is the memoir of Bobby Brown, who was married to Janie Lane.
From Warrant.
And I was connected with Bobby by my agent, who is also her agent.
Oh.
And we were introduced, and we just really hit it off. She is great. She's a badass, and she's an amazing storyteller. And we decided to put this book proposal together, and it sold to a major publisher, to Simon & Schuster.
Mm-hmm.
And the book came out in November, and it has a lot of great stories in it. It's not... I like to think that there's a lot of heart and soul in it. It's not just some sort of gossipy, hair metal, trashy memoir. I mean, she's someone who had to sort of be very resilient to survive the Sunset Strip. So there's great stories in there. I mean, there's fun. There's candy. There's stories about her going on dates with Kevin Costner, and there's stories about Leonardo DiCaprio's dick, which, I'm sorry, but that's what all the press was in. All the press that came out with the book. We're really obsessed with the Leo's dick chapter.
So that was, especially now, he's such a hot item in the media. So they focused on that.
Yes, he was Titanic. You have to read the book. But there, aside from all that kind of fun, gossipy stuff, there was some really sort of revelatory, sensitive information about Janie Lane, and I think a lot of his fans had wondered and felt sad about his decline. And obviously, we know that he passed away in sort of sad circumstances in a motel room from alcohol poisoning, and which was a tragedy because he was such a talented man and had a lot of heart and soul. And Bobby was really brave to go very deep with that. And I'm really proud of the book, and she was wonderful to work with.
What was her past history? I mean, was she a model of some sort, or had any kind of work published? I wasn't too clear on that.
Yeah. Bobby Brown was a model in Baton Rouge in Louisiana, where she grew up. And then she started entering beauty pageants, and she became I think she was crowned Miss Louisiana. And then she entered Miss Teen America, and she was noticed by agents there because she always had this she was the full package. She was beautiful, but she had this sparky personality that really came across. And after appearing on Miss Teen America, I believe she won bronze or placed. Well, she didn't win, but she did good. She got calls from agents in LA and went out there and immediately just found herself at the heart of the whole Hollywood scene and the Sunset Strip, and hanging out with all the guys and all the bands, and best friends with Slash and Sebastian Bach, and then Warrant hired her to appear in the video to Cherry Pie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what kind of set off both their careers. So Bobby Brown became known as the Cherry Pie Girl because it was, MTV era.
There was no internet.
There was no internet.
So people were honing in on MTV to get that video.
Totally.
Right?
It was on heavy rotation on MTV, and she became a star, and also Warrant became a sort of a mainstream crossover, like hair metal band.
Right. And that was, you arrived after that time. So when you were in London, did you ever did that scene ever interest you at all? I mean, you were aware of it, but did you like that kind of stuff?
I did, yeah. I always, I started out really loving Def Leppard, I have to say.
Same here.
I thought Def Leppard were a great band, and I remember being really stoked when this is one of those great Only in LA stories. It was my 27th birthday, and I was sad and alone, and then I got a call from a friend of mine who said, girl, I just made friends with one of Def Leppard's wives at the Chateau Marmont. We're going to see them perform tonight, and we're going to a party at Def Leppard's house, first of all. And I was like, what? So I was really excited. That was my ultimate Def Leppard dream come true. But I loved Guns N' Roses. I loved Motley Crue. I got into Rat a little later on.
Out of the Cellar is a great record.
It's a great record.
Awesome
I actually, I worked pretty closely with Stephen Pearcy.
Did you?
I did. Yeah, I wrote the book proposal that sold and was turned into his, and then another writer took over the writing of the actual manuscript. But Stephen and I worked on the book proposal that eventually became the book that's now out. He has his memoir that's out.
Awesome.
So yeah, I loved all that. I loved all that music.
Yeah. So when you were talking to Bobby, you kind of had like an attachment to that scene, right? I mean, you knew, you were very well versed in Warrant and Guns N' Roses and Poison and Def Leppard.
Yeah, I think so. And especially, I have done a lot of fashion writing, and I'm really interested in just aesthetics in general. And you got to just hand it to those guys, the hair metal kids. Like, they just went all out. I have a book at home called Hair Metal, and it's a photo book. And I mean, it's just unbelievable how they looked. They were like these peacocks on the Sunset Strip, and they were just so unbelievable. You can only imagine what it must have been like in 1984 or 85 when
there's no hashtags,
no hashtags,
no selfies.
No, it was just a lot of STDs and a lot of nasty behavior up and down the strip.
Constantly, and it would just stay there. It would just go back and forth all night.
Up and down, yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like, okay. And then, so there was like no like open-ended flow. It just stayed there all night. And then like public transportation sucked back in the day. So people wouldn't be down to take that because it was so bad at that time.
Mm-hmm. So how would they get around? On their motorcycles, I guess. And
I think they just walked the strip.
They walked the strip. Yeah, well, Bobby Brown talked about, in her memoir, in Dirty Rocker Boys, she talks about seeing that for the first time when she arrived in L.A. As a model with her mom, and they were trying to figure out where she was going to live and which agency she was going to sign to. And she saw all these guys wearing all this makeup and wearing these tight pants and spandex, and she's like, oh my God, they're all so cute. And her mom was like, are you out of your mind? She's like, you'll get it one day. I don't think her mom ever got it.
So what I want you to articulate is when you're working on a book, like the one we're talking about, what's the work that goes into it? I mean, before it sees the light of day, I mean, the book proposal, the being cohesive with the source. Mm-hmm. Tell me about it. I mean, like how long does it take to see it on the shelf?
It takes a long time. First of all, the proposal is about 40 pages, and you have to really sell it. So you have to normally write a sample chapter or excerpts of chapters. You have to have
samples.
Yeah, I have to have a chapter outline. You have to have a kick-ass sort of opening anecdote that's going to really grab the publishers by the balls and just be like, whoa, they have to, they're going to want to publish this because it's so cool. And then there's, you have to do some sort of market research and figure out like who's going to be reading this and all of that. So
what's the demographic who's going to buy it? What's the ceiling?
Exactly. Yeah. Once it sells and you get a deal, you normally get around 6 months to complete the first draft of the book. Mm-hmm. And every book's different. Everyone works in a different way. But normally, if it's a memoir, for example, you'll sit down and do interviews according to the chapter outline. So you'll go ahead and do like a couple hours at a time, and then you'll transcribe that and you'll put it together. And then I guess the art of it comes in making it flow and creating a narrative that you can't just tell someone's life story from beginning to end in chronological order. You have to like figure out what's important, what's interesting, how to tell those stories, how to sort of be truthful and also be entertaining at the same time, because this is nonfiction. So, you know, there can be gray areas. Sometimes people will, I guess, elaborate and so on and jazz things up or whatever. But, you know, I prefer to keep everything real and just make, you know, real life is more interesting than anything you could imagine.
Can't go wrong with it, right?
Yeah, especially with someone like Bobby Brown, who's had a truly interesting and remarkable life. I mean, if only you could see what had gone, the things that we couldn't print and the things that we couldn't publish.
Stuff that didn't make it in the book because of whatever reason. I mean, I'm sure there's
because
a
of
lot.
legal reasons. There was one major thing that, you know, if you read the reviews on Amazon, people are like, oh my God, who did it? You know, and, you know, that's something for Bobby and her family to, there's a little bit of a whodunit in the book, which I won't ruin for you, but it's something that happened to Janie that sort of explains why he was so troubled. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that can't make it into the book, but everything that's in there is true and hopefully entertaining.
So we're going to take our first music break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about Los Angeles and Caroline's favorite places. The 117th episode of Los Angeles Nisa is brought to you by Amoeba Music, La Mascota Bakery, El Cholo Restaurant, Death Wish Skateboards, Baker Skateboards, Santa Cruz Skateboards, and we will be right back.
Just smell on display. So many so afraid. Had to heal in the flames when sand turned into glass, yeah. The mirror on the wall, a penny for your thoughts. All the blood on the ground as red as cinnamon. Shadows mixed with the night. I start to grin and think about all of the freaks who wait deliverance, and still some dance to the smell of something dead. Hey, had to heal in the flames when sand turned into glass. Yes, it did. The mirror on the wall, a penny for your thoughts. Over before it began, it still remains the same. Yes, it does. The victims on display, so many so afraid. All the blood on the ground as red as cinnamon. Shadows clean, there's no in between. But all you ladies and you gentlemen, between's all you've ever seen or been, a fit poorly and arranged society, dollared up in virgin white. You disappoint me. You people raking in on the world. The devil's script sells you the heart of a blackbird. Shine on me, baby, 'cause it's raining in my heart. Sun's rising over chopping glass. Rain dropping acid brought up in the air. The distorted reality's now a necessity. To be free, so disappointing. First I put it all down to luck. God knows why my country don't give a fuck. Shine on me, baby, 'cause it's raining in my heart. Shine on me, baby, 'cause it's raining in my When I see your sun starts to shine, it's me and you all the time. Yes, no, and no is yes to you, girl. Up is down and toe sock is shoe. Green is yellow and orange is blue. The ground is still and yet it moves. I'm in the trees, it's pine after pine. And these are gonna be some of my last days here. I'm wasting away and time's too dear. Somebody hold me, I'm afraid about being chicken or a place to be safe. It's been too long since I've seen your face. It's been too long since I had a place. You never seem to see until you had my heart. I'm drifting by, baby, just torn apart. Somebody stay near, this time it's for real. I'm just what you made me, baby. I never heal. And it's been too long since I seen your pretty face. It's been too long.
Hey, welcome back to Los Angeles Nista, episode 117. I'm the show creator, producer, and host, Eddie Solis. And my in-studio guest, Caroline Ryder. How are you over there, Caroline?
I'm doing great. I'm having so much fun.
Awesome. So happy to hear that. So, I'm really happy the way we took your professional life and, we're able to lay it out on the table for everyone and talk about your journalism, your involvement in the books that are out. And have been published. But now I want to talk to you about Silver Lake. That's where you reside. And there's a lot going on there. There's a lot of cafes, art galleries, venues, dog parks, all kinds of stuff. Let me ask you a question. When you chose Silver Lake, what were the components that made you go with Silver Lake?
I have a long-running relationship with Silver Lake. I'm trying to think what. It's always just been friends. Like everyone I know pretty much lives in Silver Lake. And it gets crazy sometimes. You'll step out for, to get a salad at the Casbah Cafe and you'll see 5-6 people that just because everyone's hanging out or doing their thing or, going for a jog or getting a juice. So I've always, I first moved to Silver Lake, I think it was 2008. I'd been living in Echo Park in a really cute house with my then boyfriend, and then he and I split up, and I moved into a Craftsman house on Golden Gate Avenue, right in the heart of Sunset Junction. Mm-hmm. And it was, it was thriving. It's crazy now. People complain that it's very overpriced. It certainly is. I have friends who remember when you could rent a bungalow for like $400 or $500 a month in Silver Lake.
Sure.
And now, it's unthinkable. People are asking for $1,250 for a studio apartment.
$1,250, $1,300, yeah.
Yeah. And it's become one of those sort of hot neighborhoods, but I still love it. And everyone's sort of hanging on in there by the skin of their teeth and trying to figure out how to pay their
literally,
extra
right?
rent. Yeah.
I love to visit there. I love to go to a vacation vinyl, a music store. And, when I'm coming from the Boyle Heights area, I just take the Line 18 bus over the bridge. And then I take that to 5th and Broadway and jump on the number 2 or 4. And it drops me off literally right in front of vacation. So I always visit Silver Lake car free. And I was really intrigued by the conversation that we had during our break. And I mentioned a place called Crew, CRU, which is a raw foods and vegan restaurant. I love going there. I'm not vegan, but I just love their food. And you had a special story. Can you tell it? That's where you were given your dog.
Yeah, literally.
Can you tell that story?
Yeah, it's one of my many Silver Lake stories. Crew, I believe, is now RIP, sadly.
Yeah.
I believe they're turning it into like a new Vietnamese place. But back in, I think it was 2006, I was having dinner at Crew with my good friend, a journalist called Steffi Nelson. She and I were both writing for the LA Weekly, blogging for the LA Weekly, and not really knowing what the hell we were doing because blogging had just been invented as far as we were concerned. And we were sitting there in this, we both noticed at the same time this really cute looking white poodle just sort of walking down the road by himself with like a piece of string sort of tied to his collar, and we sort of poked our heads out, and then we saw this guy who looked like he's homeless pick up the dog, and we were like, okay, and sat down and continued with our meal, and then about 15 minutes later, another homeless guy came in holding the dog, saying that he had basically stolen it from his friend because he didn't think that his friend was a good daddy to this dog because his friend was always drunk. And he
told you that?
Yeah, and he noticed that we had sort of shown an interest in the dog, and he said, I think you should take the dog. And he put the dog on my lap, and I was just like, what the hell is going on? And he said, look, I'll be back in 5. You just let me know what you want to do. And during that 5 minutes interval, I took the dog into the restroom with me, and I sat and we looked at each other, and I was like, all right, let's do it. So the guy came back. I said, I'm going to keep the dog. And then I got in my car, and the dog is looking at me sitting on the passenger seat. And I was like, well, your dog, I guess that means you need food. So we went to 7-Eleven, and I got some food. It was late, and there was a guy in there who I remember he had like a grill and like a mesh, like a wife beater. And he came up and he was being a real gentleman, saying, how he would like to take me and my dog out on a date one day. And he gave me his card that was printed on like really flimsy paper. And on the card, it said International Romeo. And I was like, cool. I got in the car. I was like, that's your name, Romeo.
So you named him Romeo.
So Romeo became my best friend. And about 2 or 3 years into our friendship, unfortunately, he suffered a herniated disc. And the result was paralysis in his hind legs. And he was unable to walk. And this is really where the conversation swings back around to Silver Lake and the amazing people who live there, because one of my favorite spots in Silver Lake is Mornings Nights Cafe, which is a great alternative to Intelligentsia. And the lady who runs it is called Julie. And I would go in there every single day with Romeo. And when he became disabled, it was around the same time that I had lost my job and the recession and et cetera, et cetera. And she went ahead and bought him a set of wheels, a wheelchair. You can actually get wheelchairs for dogs who are paralyzed. And it really, it was a sight to behold. Me and Romeo kind of like scooting around the neighborhood in Silver Lake. And I'm eternally grateful to the generosity of Julie and also a couple other business owners in the neighborhood who, there was one place, the dog grooming place across from Mornings Nights Cafes, that they fell in love with Romeo and really felt for him and offered him free grooming for life. So,
wow.
Yeah. And so, I think Silver Lake has a reputation for being this kind of hipster hotspot and certainly gentrified. Certainly you can buy sort of boutique-y gifts there and et cetera, et cetera.
Clothing and
and that's all cool. I have no problem with high design. That's fine by me. But there's also a really great grassroots community that they're all still there.
Right. So it appears that even though it has this stigma, there's also a sense of a real community that's installed there, and people are warm and they care about one another.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about LA. If you let them, if you sort of look beyond your sort of whatever your career goals might be, or the people that you meet that sort of make sense to your long-term vision or how to make money or be a success, if you look beyond that, you can make connections that are very meaningful and long-lasting. And there's a lot of kindness and there are a lot of good people in LA. We just have to remind ourselves of that. It's really easy, especially living in those sort of popular neighborhoods. It's really easy to get caught up in just making the scene or,
being the king of the scene or the queen of the scene.
Yeah, it's crazy now. Sunset Junction I live about 2 minutes from Sunset Junction and 2 minutes walk. I'm ashamed to say, driven from my place to Cafe Stella once. I'm sorry, Eddie. I know I'm in trouble. But it's crazy now on a Saturday. It's like, it reminds me of Camden Town, which is a neighborhood I spent a lot of time in London.
Does it really?
When I was growing up. Yeah. The first newspaper I wrote for was in Camden and in Islington. So I know what, a popular sort of touristy neighborhood that has like this sort of the roots. I mean, the roots of Silver Lake go, I'm probably going to get yelled at by someone who actually knows the roots of Silver Lake, but I know that there was a gay lesbian community and a Latino community. And then sort of all the poor artists moved in and made it sort of this sort of 90s scene that, the Brian Jonestown Massacre were hanging out. And
Spaceland opened.
Spaceland.
Foo Fighters played there, and it was all over.
Did you go?
Yeah, back in the day. It was like 90, I want to say 95.
Okay.
96?
Yeah.
95, 96, 97 maybe?
It was all over, you say?
Well, no.
No,
I mean, yeah. That's
it was all over and that, like, it just got crazy?
Well, I mean, yeah, I remember getting to LA Weekly and it was like, wow, the Foo Fighters are going to play there.
Right.
And I was able to get in and, that's when things were changing. Exene had her shop, Pull My Daisy, and all that
was
stuff.
Exene's store. It's still there.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
And the Foo Fighters played Spaceland, and things just snowballed. Spaceland was happening, but it wasn't like going off. But it seems like when the Foo Fighters played there, it just changed.
It sort of got put on the
map.
On the map.
And then all these indie bands started playing there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like people who don't even live in the United States have heard of Silver Lake, which is, a very interesting state of affairs for any neighborhood.
Yeah. So the coffee shop that you mentioned that helped Romeo was called what again?
Mornings Nights
Mornings
Cafe.
Nights. So that's a mom and pop business. So that's, special. Let's talk about what you like to get there.
Oh, well, they have wonderful salads. They really do. They have like avocado salads with they really pile it on. So you look at the sprouts and you can have chicken and you can just get a gigantic, super delicious organic salad there. They also have great coffee. It's just a wonderful place. The food is high quality. The coffee is great. And there's seating outside. It's a great place to go when the Silver Lake Farmers Market is happening because it's right in front. So
That's
you
on
can
Saturdays,
go in,
right?
Yeah, every Saturday, and I believe every Tuesday evening as well. They have a farmers market there. So it's a wonderful little spot. And like I say, Intelligentsia is definitely a little pricier.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a scene in its own right, and that's fine. I prefer to go to Mornings Nights. It just feels a little more relaxed. And you can get great food there, too.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I mean, yeah, Intelligentsia, I like the product. Pretty expensive for coffee.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even if you have the money, it's expensive. It's like I'm paying this much for coffee. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. What about bookstores?
Bookstores?
Anywhere that you visited in Silver Lake that you went to go buy books or have shopped?
If I'm looking for books, I'll head into Los Feliz and I'll go to Skylight because that is one of the greatest bookstores in Los Angeles. I don't really buy books in Silver Lake, but I do love Vacation Vinyl, which you already name checked. If only because you can go in there and chit chat to the guys, Mark and George, and I remember I asked them if they had a Pentagram record. We just heard some Pentagram, and they pointed out this super rare first edition something or other that they have for $100 or something.
Right.
And but you can just hang out there. It's that traditional, cool, independent record store that those places keep the community alive.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's where I get my music fix. And they have a $1, $2 vinyl bin as well.
That's
so
cool.
That's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what about other food in Silver Lake? Is there anything else that you're fond of and actually go try out?
Oh, yeah. There's tons of great food in Silver Lake. You're kind of spoiled for choice. If I'm going for something like a cafe, kind of a lunch kind of situation, I'll probably go to Casbah, which is a French Moroccan themed venue that has outdoor seating, and they have this amazing mint tea with real mint leaves, and it's delicious. And they have a wide range of salads. Again, I always get the hearts of palm salad, and they have amazing sort of French pastries and baked goods as well. If you're in a ice creamy or gelato mood,
sure,
there's Pazzo Gelato, which is
knocks your socks off, right?
Oh yeah, I love it. They make it fresh, and they make it in house. And I remember, I think it was a moment that can only be described as orgasmic when I tried their banana gelato. I still remember it. You know, I saw stars. It was gorgeous. And I still, you know, like I just troll their Facebook page to see when's the banana gelato coming back.
So it's like limited time sometimes.
Oh, yeah, they do it. Like, you know, it'll be one day and they'll post on their Facebook page, we got some banana gelato. Yeah. Wow. So that place is definitely a favorite. And then I love going to Cafe Stella because it's almost like its own universe or like a galaxy where you have like the main restaurant, which has an outdoor area where you can see all kinds of like random hipster celebrities, and it's really funny, like Doogie Howser, like whatever.
He's a hipster celebrity, right?
In my world. Yes.
What about Punky Brewster? Is she a hipster
Oh my
celebrity?
God. I would die if I saw Punky Brewster anywhere.
Would you flip?
I would flip. I would flirt probably with her. Yeah. But yeah, you can always, it's good for sort of stupid like people watching, and which I'm a big fan of. And then you have like this sort of sceney kind of, it's called a Bar Stella, which is like this newer front bar that has like a little outdoor area for the smokers, and they have their own separate thing going on there, and it's really popular. People hang out there a lot, and they have a bouncer and a doorman and all that kind of stuff. And my favorite part of that whole complex though is the little wine bar at the back of Cafe Stella that not many people even know about.
Oh, really?
And FYI, the same glass of wine will cost you less at this bar compared to the bar in the front bar, which is like the sort of the fancy popular place. Sure. So the back bar is where it's at, in my opinion. The bartender knows your name. His
smaller,
I know his price. Name. Yeah, Vincent. He's out of this world. That's one of my little favorite places to go and unwind.
That's a fun fact right there. That's a Caroline Ryder fun fact.
It really is. It's kind of this privileged information that I'm sharing with your esteemed listenership.
Absolutely. Now, what about like, you know, you have a dog, or no, you don't have a dog no more.
Well, Romeo had to move to Alabama because so Romeo was in his wheelchair for 2 years, and you know, I didn't mention this, you know, out of respect for Romeo, but he was also incontinent, which made life tricky in that I would have to help him with his sort of natural functions.
Right.
And, you know, it really is a full-time job and sort of better done by professionals. So I found a wonderful ex-veterinary nurse who has devoted her life to caring for special needs animals, and she adopted him. So I no longer have a dog, but I lust after other people's dogs. I'm such a dog person.
So a question I wanted to ask was there any routes that you had where you took them for walks? Was there dog parks, anything like that, or parks?
Yeah, we would for sure go to the Silver Lake Dog Park, and you know, everyone would have fun and get their hump on, and you know, and get their fight on, and then
fight or hump,
and then there would be blood, and then you'd be like a god, and then everyone, you know, no, I'm kidding. That was a cool spot. But there's something really fun just about taking a dog into the Silver Lake Hills and just wandering aimlessly and letting them sniff around. I mean, they just love it. They're skunks.
Intuitively, right?
Oh yeah, just let the dog lead the way. And see what happens. And that I've kind of stumbled upon some of the most fun, sort of interesting, tucked away little places just by letting the dog take me on the walk.
It's amazing when you're, whether you're car free or not, and you decide to take a walk, what you find in Los Angeles in between the buildings.
Oh, there's a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. And because it's such a car culture,
you miss it all.
It's neglected. Well, that's the fun thing about LA. If you're someone who sort of thrives on discovering things or like finding things that you can call your own, or plant your little flag in and be like, guess what? This is the coolest taco stand that you've never heard of.
They've never heard of, yeah.
Right, because nobody walks as much as they should around LA. Yeah, you can find a lot if you're on foot with a doggy.
You know, I have a question. This is off the Silver Lake subject.
Okay.
Are you a sports fan? Do you follow baseball, basketball, anything like that? Are you a fan of any of those sports?
I passionately don't follow sports. I'm vaguely aware of things like when the Super Bowl's happening. I'll be like, oh, cool. Does this mean we get to watch Madonna do something on TV or whatever? Yeah, or Prince. No, I've never been. I'm from England. I have no understanding of American football. I have been to see a Dodgers game, though. That was really fun.
Did you have fun?
I had tons of fun.
And did you enjoy the game?
I didn't quite understand what was going on, but the pretzels were great. And I believe
the environment
was fun. You know, you can feel the passion and the singing. And yeah, absolutely. You know, I feel like it's remiss of me to not become more involved with the local sporting scene. And, I wish that LA had its own football team. It doesn't have one, does it?
No.
It's very strange.
No.
It makes no
Very
sense.
strange. I don't like it. Well, I'm not a football fan.
You're not? Okay.
So personally, it doesn't affect me, but it affects most people.
It does. It affects me, and I hate it all.
Tell me how it affects you.
I feel like Los Angeles is a great city, and every great city should have its own team that throws a ball around and wears shoulder pads at the same time. I think it's an important thing for a city. Otherwise, it doesn't feel like a real city. And LA is clearly a real city.
Yeah, and before there was LA Live, it didn't feel like there was a downtown at all.
That's right.
It was really weird back in the day.
Yeah. I had a professor at USC who claimed his name was Professor Todd Boyd, who refers to himself as the notorious PhD, and he taught blaxploitation class for me. But he claimed to have been one of the early sort of populators of downtown when it was really fucking scary. You know, I mean, even like I remember I have a good friend called Liz McGrath, who's an artist, and her husband had this loft. Before downtown lofts were like lofty and really expensive. And
livable and nice.
Yeah, no, they had to build that stuff out themselves, and they would have all these stories about how like you couldn't park your car anywhere because homeless people would break into it and like poo in it. And like that happened to them a lot. I mean, not to diss homeless people, but I guess everyone needs to poo. So
sure.
And yeah, sometimes you're just going to pick the nearest car. You want some privacy.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And it's interesting. I mean, there's
less pooing these days.
There's less pooing and more walking of dogs.
More walking of dogs, possibly in strollers.
Twin dogs, like the Doublemint twins.
What do you think of the new Ace Hotel downtown?
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. I peeped in and saw the venue and all that stuff. So,
that's right. Spiritualized played last weekend.
Was that 3 nights?
Yeah, something like that.
Is that something?
Something. Yeah.
That's great.
And I heard that the venue is beautiful.
Right.
They've restored it very nicely. I went for brunch there a couple weeks ago, I mean, and there was one thing that you shouldn't get, and I can't remember what it is, but they have a rooftop that is really kind of fun. It's kind of a little hang zone, and there's a tiny pool that I don't know why they even bothered, but the views are great, and it's a fun place to hang out.
Nice. You know, back in like the 80s and early 90s, mid 90s, late 90s, you come to downtown at 6 o'clock when everyone closed, the offices. There was no one around. It was like a ghost town. And like all the crackheads would come out. Yeah. And just walk and, zombie it up together.
I miss the crackheads.
You miss the zombies?
I actually literally had a Night of the Living Dead experience once, going to a party in downtown it was just off Skidrow, where kind of close to where we are right now. And it was in an old abandoned fire station. I believe that some of Ghostbusters was filmed there.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if this is ringing any bells for you, but it was like a really randomly awesome after hours party. And I think Devendra Banhart was DJing, and this was like 2006. And Rose Apodaca, who was a local fixture, a fashion journalist, was there taking pictures. And I think me and my roommate ended up in Paper Magazine. But which sounds really kind of hip and fancy, but I kid you not, when we parked, the walk from the car to the party was the most terrifying thing ever. There were people walking towards us with their arms outstretched slowly with kind of glazed expressions on their faces like they wanted to eat us. And I was just like, oh my God, we got to run. So we ran.
You ran?
We ran. Yeah. Live to tell the tale.
Wow. But yeah, I mean, that's how it was growing up, in Angelino. There was, you'd come to the LA Sports Arena to see the Clippers. If you want to go to the Forum for a concert or see the Lakers, you have to drive far to the LAX, basically. And it's like, well, we're nowhere downtown. We're by Inglewood. It's just so weird, And anytime you went through downtown, like, it was just always vacant, nothing happening. On weekends, you go to a Dodger game, you go through downtown, and then you go up Sunset, and it was like, no activity. And finally, when they installed LA Live, it was like, okay, there's Staples Center, there's Nokia Theater, Club Nokia, Conga Room, all these other places. And then there's public transportation.
Right.
Like, that makes it accessible to get there easy and cheap. And then all these places started popping up in these little dive bars that have bands. Some dive bars that, don't have bands. Some good Mexican places.
La Cita, that had that's a Mexican restaurant that had a cool music
cool
scene.
dance night and a music scene, and they would have Mexican, they would have I think serve like shrimp cocktails and they have a bar, and it's right across the street from the Pershing Square station on the Red Line.
Oh,
and what's cool about that is La Cita is located on Hill, and it's right next door or a few doors down from Grand Central Market, which is a very well-known food hall that was established in 1918. And that has gone under a lot of renovation. They have a whole new crew there, the business development, Chris Farber, Kevin West, who's a culinary consultant, and they're all installing all these relevant vendors now. So all the food that they have there, it's very new, relevant, and it's meeting a demand. For instance, they have a place called Downtown LA Cheese.
I've heard of it.
DTLA cheese, right? Absolutely.
Is it good?
Fantastic. They make sandwiches. They have, different portions of cheese available, different genres of cheese, but also
I love cheese genres.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm so excited right now.
And the cool thing about it is there's a nice backstory to the people who own it. The two girls who own it, they're the granddaughters of the Altadena Dairy family, which is a big Southern California, staple for dairy.
So they stayed true to their family, their family business.
Yeah, they were on here and they explained their story, and it was really, really admirable and fun.
I have to check it out. Yeah, I've heard wonderful things about Grand Central Market, and I went to a hair salon in downtown called Gold on Grand, and the girls there are really cool, and it's in this building where there's a little man in a wheelchair who kind of like is the lift operator, and it's very Lynchian, and you get in and he's kind of grumpy and just amazing, and then
it's
you go,
fun though, right?
Yeah, I love it. Where else in LA are you gonna have this? And it's this old sort of creaky elevator that takes you up to their salon. Anyway,
by a little old man.
By this little creepy old man who's adorable at the same time, but you really don't want to mess with him because he'll cause some kind of a spell for sure. And when I got finished with getting my hair did, I came out and I said I'm going to walk around, and it was on 7th and Grand, and there's just so much in downtown. I feel like people who are not spending time there at this moment in time are
missing it.
Yeah, there's it. I mean, I know I'm definitely not the first person in the world to say this, but really, downtown, the renaissance of downtown is something LA should be very proud of. I mean, especially, let's hope that they really retain the beautiful Art Deco buildings and the vintage character of so many of those old buildings. I think the Ace has done a great job. I even think the Urban Outfitters has done a good job. Yes, I mean, I think gentrification, hipsterification, whatever you want to call it, got to tread. It's a fine line, but I like the way downtown feels. If only it was just a little less crazy expensive, because it's become extremely unaffordable.
It's really expensive right now to live here in a nice place. Not cheap.
It's not cheap. It's that New York style living, I guess.
Exactly.
But the food is phenomenal. I believe the top-rated restaurant in America, Alma, is in downtown LA. So there's fine dining, and then you have like the really cool little sort of hole-in-the-wall places as well, and everything. And like that's what reminds me of, certain neighborhoods in London or New York, like that just have that magic, and you can have an experience just from walking from A to B.
Right, and it's so much and so little of geography. Cool thing is too, while there's all this being installed, and there's also it seems like the city and more people are preserving the history when it comes to like the architecture. They're reopening more hotels. They're, like you said, they're restoring the original essence, and with the current public transportation system, like the Red Line and the Blue Line, making it easy and cheap. I just think it's fun to come experience it, because you could get off on any stop, and you get off on Civic Center, and you're like, okay, there's Disney Concert Hall, there's the Redwood, there's Grand Park. How about Grand Park? Have you seen that? There's a huge park in the middle of downtown. 2 levels.
Bless downtown.
Yeah.
Bless downtown.
Yeah, there's even a Starbucks there. so it's
God bless Starbucks.
Yeah. Dumb Starbucks?
I don't mind Starbucks.
I love Starbucks.
People hate on Starbucks. I'm like,
I love
Starbucks has saved me many a time. I get the iced cappuccino. I highly recommend it.
My drink is the venti iced coffee, unsweetened with no room, 0 calories.
We are so LA right now.
That is very LA. 0 calories.
Should we talk about the price of kale?
Kale by the pound? I heard an NPR piece on kale.
Oh my God.
I was like, are you kidding me?
I love that.
That's great, but it's like, come on, a whole feature on kale?
Yeah, they should be sort of piping it gently through all stores in LA. I think that people in LA are very concerned about kale at all times.
We're going to take our last music break. Okay. And so you got some more fabulous tunes to play. And when we come back, we'll chat a little more and talk to Caroline Ryder in the 117th episode of Los Angeles Nista. And we're going to hear some tunes. Thank you. Take it away. Welcome back to Los Angeles, Nisa, episode 117. This episode is brought to you by Two Felon Skate Shop in Whittier, 6740 in Whittier, California. And one of our latest sponsors, a tarot card reader from Santa Fe, New Mexico. You find her on Facebook. You have to track her down. And her name is Air Dream. EIREDREAM Spaeth, SPAETH. The best in the United States. But she's an Angelino at heart. Contact her direct, and, she's not so rigid. She'll intuitively give you a tier as far as the kind of service she'll give you. So she's awesome. And welcome back to the 117th episode. In studio guest Caroline Ryder. What did we hear?
We just heard a song called Pale Moon by Wyman Miles, who is a San Francisco-based musician who is on the Sacred Bones label, and he rocks. We also heard Shredder by a band called Jeff the Brotherhood.
Oh, I love Jeff the Brotherhood.
We heard some Pentagram, Last Days Here, which you should for sure get the record and watch the amazing documentary about Bobby. Yeah. We also listened to a song called She Plays Yo-Yo With My Mind by Sunny and the Sunsets. Another SF-based band. But sorry. I wanted to make them all Silver Lake bands, but there's plenty to choose from, but this is what we ended up with. But we do have Elliott Smith, Distorted Reality is now necessary something or other. It's a long song title, but of course, Elliott Smith is, for me, forever associated with Los Angeles. I mean, he was in Portland as well, and elsewhere, but this was from his, I believe, posthumously released album, From a Basement on a Hill, which was recorded in Echo Park, I believe. We had a great song called It's a Cold Night for Alligators by the one and only Rocky Erickson. And you should watch the documentary about Rocky Erickson that was made by an LA-based documentarian. And it's called You're Gonna Miss Me. And it's really fascinating. And then a song called Over Before It Began by a band called Waxy, out of the desert, very close to my heart. And then the Entrance Band started off the show with This House Is Not a Motel, amazing LA band.
Very well done. Eclectic taste in music, as always. I wanted to, before we go, just ask you, Mexican food in Los Angeles, you like it?
Anyone who doesn't like Mexican food in Los Angeles has got some kind of a psychological problem.
And this is coming from my friend from London, Caroline Ryder. I love that. I love that.
No, it's
you got problems, man.
You got serious issues. You have childhood trauma that you're still dealing with. If you're not into what's happening with Mexican food in LA.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's delicious. It's everywhere. It's the ingredients are phenomenal. The guacamole is incredible. The salsa is forever.
Margaritas.
Oh, hello. Let's get some.
All that good stuff, right?
Yeah, a big fan of El Compadre is one of my favorite spots.
Love it.
Yeah,
Love
up
it.
in Echo Park, and there's one in Hollywood too.
Well, thank you for that Mexican food curriculum. We're grateful. And that wraps up the 117th episode of Los Angeles Nista. Caroline Ryder, let's give your website, your blog.
It is www.carolineryder.com, RYDER.
Awesome. Thank you so much.